I want to be sure I know so much about it that I can use AI and AI cannot use me. If you aren't grounded in Christ, if you don't have family support, if you aren't really trying to do those three things that matter most, educate yourself, stay committed to your family, and stay committed to a community, it is going to run you over. I'm not arguing that like when AI is done hallucinating or when AI is to 100% accurate, well, we can all go use it. I'm saying the thing itself is flawed.
Your organization is known worldwide, and we certainly appreciate every facet that you do.
I do believe in what you're doing because I've seen it in my family.
I'm so excited about all the things that, Robert, you guys are doing with Classical Conversations. It's been a huge blessing for our family.
Grateful for the work at Classical Conversations. You're a leader and you have been in this movement for a long time.
We love Classical Conversations.
I do feel like I have a debt of gratitude to you, your family, all of CC for just the fruit that has come from CC.
I appreciate all that you guys do, both through this wonderful podcast and also through Classical Conversations, which I am convinced is the best education resource out there. Thank you very much for all that you do for the cause of Christ and for our families and for our children. Really, really appreciate it.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another informative episode of Refining Rhetoric. And we are doing AI week, so we've got episodes about AI coming at you all week long. So you'll want to share these with a friend. Obviously, subscribe on YouTube and comment below how you're using AI. But today, I'm super excited to have founder of Classical Conversations, aerospace engineer, and my mom, Leigh Bortins, with us on the show today. So, Mom, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Robert. Glad to be here.
Now, you just got back from America Reads the Bible. So before we start talking about AI, how was that experience?
I had a really great time. You can see I have my red, white, and blue shirt on. It was just really great to connect with Joni and Corey Isaac, who led me to Christ. They came to watch me read. And then we went to the CREC church that I saw the protesters in the morning. And so Christopher Blackburn, who came with me, he's our cameraman helping us on this episode, actually. He and I got to meet with a lot of CC families and people who knew us. So we got to see new and old friends there. And then the actual experience, very professionally set up. Bunny Pound and Christian Engage made sure everybody was comfortable and all the technology. Wow, what a lot of technology they had to deal with. But of course, the best thing was to just be there with a few friends ahead of me and a few friends after through our political organizations and our educational organizations from a variety of organizations, and to just read God's word and nothing else, to have no other agenda, but say hi and let's get to the important business. So it's still going on. This is Thursday, April 23rd?
Yeah.
4th? And you can look at Donald Trump. He read with us Tuesday night. And we have one more day of reading. And I just really applaud the efforts. Almost 600 readers, leaders of various faith-based organizations and political organizations got together to say, this is really important.
Yes, for 250 years, of course, our America was founded on Christian principles and by Christian men and families. And so, yeah, super important. And yeah, Bunny Pounds, she's been on the show before, so go check out that episode as well if you're listening. So you've been working on computers and technology since mainframe computers, and you helped write some missile programs and things like that early on or on some projects like that. So yeah, tell us a little bit about the AI revolution or like when you first experienced AI.
Yeah, so I do have a technological background. And so, of course, I was right in there learning about blockchain and Bitcoin 6-7 years ago, which I know sounds late now to me. And then whenever I heard about the AI things going on, just started researching that. And so about 2 years ago, I started really, spending about, I'd say 40 hours a week researching AI. I was interviewing our sales team and our field team and homeschool moms and dads, trying to understand what did they know about it? How could we help out in that realm? I met with some professional organizations. I read a lot of books, podcasts. It'd be great to share some of those resources at some point so people can kind of know what's formative to Classical Conversations ideas on AI. And through that, developed a few blogs and a couple of videos trying to encourage just our whole leadership team to think about AI and education. And then you've done an amazing job behind the scenes also trying to integrate what you're learning with our entire team. So I was like, I felt like a frontliner trying to just figure out what's going on. What do people think about it? And what was really interesting to me was 2 Novembers ago when I first started the interviews, people either had never even heard of it or like put their arms in the air and did this. Like that was their first reaction. And then a few months into it, everyone had heard of it and there were less people saying exit out. And within 6 months, by June, there was actually leaders in education with us who had part-time jobs using AI. So it's been a really rapid advancement. And of course, just like you said about mainframes and disks and Fortran and cards for Fortran, boy, is it really different to have everything go through the air compared to when we actually had to physically program with ASCII codes and zeros and ones and punch holes. So it's come a long way.
Yeah, it sure has. And so as we look at like AI and you're exploring it, I mean, there's obvious like benefits to it, but there's downsides to it as well. And we see like people like, you know, Fortune 50 companies are saying they're laying off people because of AI. It could be an excuse, it could be real. But I know like using it ourselves or myself that I can see how it makes some things a lot faster. But then you also have these ideas of it not giving you accurate information and things like that. So I know you've listened, one of your favorite podcasts to listen to is the All In podcast. And they've had a lot of episodes on it. But like, how do you think about it, like for yourself as an adult using AI or not using AI or how AI can benefit you?
Yeah. Yeah, because if you don't know your personal philosophies and your worldview and what you stand on, you continue to be bashed around by the tide of modernity. So, first place, I spent a lot of time listening to John Lennox and reading Daniel Revelations, looking at John Lennox's books on AI and his podcast, trying to understand just from a Christian perspective, where in the Bible is there any intersections? And of course, what you find out is because artificial intelligence is just really about words through technology, the entire Bible speaks to it. And so that was really a blessing to find out that the Lord has never left us ill prepared for anything that comes our way. But that doesn't mean we're wise enough to know how to apply something new to those great words that, you know, he's given us. So for me, I'm trying to approach it from the idea that it's nothing to be afraid of, but there's a lot of fearful things that are going to come out of it. So, for example, the reason why I think there actually is so much fear in the general populace about AI is because we have enough adults who've been through enough technology and have seen what it's done to their children that they're like, wait a minute, this time when I stick that Game Boy in their hand, I have a different question if AI is in there. Because the parent generation I come from, we were the first ones to have children that used technology like this. Well, we didn't know what to ask. We didn't know what to expect. A lot of it was just fun.
Yeah.
And now we look and say, yeah, and it's rewired our children's brains and it's made it so they don't know where north and south are. And so we have better questions this time around. What's unfortunate is a lot of people don't know what the questions are. And so they're just like I said, people that I talked to 2 years ago in education, putting their arms up saying, just keep it away from me. And so I'm trying to say, if I'm going to keep it away from me, I want to know what it is I'm keeping away from me. I want to know where it's ubiquitous and where it's invading in my life and I don't recognize it. And I want to be sure I know so much about it that I can use AI and AI cannot use me. So that's my philosophy, because God's equipped us to use whatever comes our way to woo folks to Christ and to share the gospel.
Yeah, I mean, so current AI is really just a large language learning model, aka a bunch of words, and trying to synthesize those into a reasonable, you know, sentence or idea or picture, etc., video now. So, I mean, like in some ways, AI, you know, the benefits of it, like I'm in traffic and my Waze or my Google directions say, go this route instead of this route, right? I mean, that's using AI algorithms, large language learning models to look at traffic patterns and reroute you so you can get to your location faster. Or even now with Google, right, it gives you kind of an AI answer with the links that it used to come up with it, and then links below it. So a lot of businesses are now trying to figure out, how do I show up in the AI response of search instead of just, being in the front page or whatnot. So yeah, so I think
so if you want to know like positive things, I think narrow AI has made some fabulous inroads that are only beneficial to mankind. It's the kind of general AI that just feels like it's floating around that's really causing the difficulty. So for instance, there's an AI wristband that detects whether your child's about to have an epileptic fit before it comes on. There's narrow AIs that detect lung cancer so much earlier than ever before. There's AIs for astronomy that makes it so that an astronomer doesn't have to spend millions of dollars to figure out the project they're on. They can just spend a few minutes and have everything well identified. And the reason why the narrow AIs are so effective is because they're designed by the experts and they're used by the experts. If you don't have the domain in what AI is doing, it'll hurt you. But if you have a lot of expertise in the domain that you're using AI in, it's going to be another tool and help for you.
Yeah, so narrow AI is basically these AI algorithms that are applied to a very specific use case, and it's not going onto the internet or doing these different things. It's saying it's, the best and brightest people in the world have put their ideas or their research time, tested it to look at it, and now it's saying, we're seeing these patterns, and hey, your kid might be having an epileptic shock, or it's for this very specific thing. So I think my personal belief is that narrow AI is kind of what we're going to end up with in business and in life. You're going to have your cooking AI and your cleaning AI and some things like that in the future, just like you have all these different technology platforms, but you have your CRM and you have your accounting and you have your Word document and things like that, versus just kind of this generative AI or this larger learning modules that we see like ChatGPT and Claude, AI friends, these things that aren't really narrow to the particular use case. So yeah, so narrow AI, I know that people are working on, especially like Khan Academy for technology. I think there's an Acton high school or something. It charges like $50,000 a year, and they do education for 2 hours a day with AI, and then have like 6 hours of, free learning or something like that, where they're experiencing life. It sounds a lot like homeschooling to me. So yeah, as we think about things, because I think adults a lot of times forget, like, sometimes it's okay for an adult to do something, but not a child, right?
Yes.
And maybe not morally, but I mean, there might be moral implications to it. But yeah, so how do you think about like adult use versus child use?
Yeah. So there's a great video out there by Derek Mueller, who runs Veritasium, and it's called Effort is the Algorithm. And he spends an hour talking to a bunch of physics students, explaining why he does not particularly like AI for education and children. So I really just recommend everybody listen to that. But then that's the point. Learning requires wrestling. It requires effort. And everybody's looking for a shortcut, because we were taught by going through public school, which is very much a factory model, and they had to make it as easy for the teachers as possible, which meant a lot of standardization, because that's easier to grade. And so children who were good at test taking, like myself and you, we can get A's without learning anything. And that's bad education. Good education is putting in effort and wrestling. And we as homeschoolers, because most of us went to school systems, we tend to bring home those expectations instead of recognizing how much God values work. And you have a lot of podcasts and speeches you've given on work. And so the work of our children is different than the work of an adult. I want my employees to use AI to benefit their time and effort, because they're getting paid and it costs me money and they're trying to reach a whole lot of people. But I want you, and I see your children do this. I want my children your children, my grandchildren, I want them to struggle. I know that that's how they learn. and being handed everything like it. Christopher, who was with this past weekend, made the comment that challenge develops. And if you're not challenged, you do not develop. And children are developing adults, so they just need to be constantly challenged. The thing is, we confuse being challenged in hard work with misery, and it's not. Children are bent to want to do the same things over and over again. They want to hang out with their parents. They want to hear well done. And we just need to capitalize on the natural ways that they learn, grammar, dialectic, and rhetoric, rather than the artificial ways that we've been trained to use in modern technology. So, same with AI. I think AI's best analogy is a chainsaw. I know you said that you've been using that also. I have nothing against chainsaws. I'm thrilled that we have chainsaws. But do I let just anybody use it?
Yep.
No, and it's not because of any one thing. You might be wise enough to use a chainsaw, but not physically strong enough. Or you might be physically strong enough, but not have good balance or eye perspective. Like, you are a whole human being. And so AI, I look at as a chainsaw. I would not want my young children using it until they were totally ready to use it. Now, that doesn't mean they can't use parts of it. Like, I teach them to use a steak knife, or maybe I hold the chainsaw with a teenager. And so there may be times you're using AI with your children, but to just let them go, we know it's a mistake because, like, think about how social media isn't nearly as powerful as AI, and how many parents are trying to put controls on the social media. So AI just requires 100x controls.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, social media, they have all these psychiatrists behind it trying to figure out dopamine hits and all of these things so that you get addicted to the platform, or you stay on the platform as long as possible so they can sell as many ads as possible to you. And so they're doing this, and they're kind of using, these big kind of pools where you're saying this person's demographic, these are the things he's looked at, so we can feed him these things to keep him on the platform. Well, AI can let them personalize that.
Yeah. The thing is, the scriptures tell us we'll be like our master, and I don't want my children like a plastic box. They're not made out of copper. They're not made out of silicon. They need another human to learn that from. Now, that doesn't mean in working with another human, they can't have tools to use.
Right.
But if the tool is the one that, like, we've already heard parents in classical conversations come to us and say, my child's been arguing with me over an answer because ChatGPT said something different than what I say. And so it's undermining parental authority. Just like the public school has undermined parental authority, just like regulations, subsidies, and taxation undermine, the authority of free humans. And so we just have to watch. Just because it works doesn't mean it's the best thing you could be doing.
Yeah, I mean, from these AI robots ideas, right? You are undermining that authority of the parent, of the teacher, of the principal, of the coach. And of course, all those people are, they're all fallible as well, but AI is fallible too. But it's like, it's harder because I know I don't know everything, and I know other humans don't know everything, but I also know that this machine has access to everything. And so if it's giving you 3 right answers in a row that you personally know are right, if that fourth one's wrong, you've kind of started to check out in your brain. And so that's from, like, as an adult, a lot of experience and wisdom, and, again, not 100% right all the time. I can start to see when it's wrong or acting up, but a child isn't going to have that same knowledge or experience. So,
and the people who are making a lot of money in AI, the adults who are doing that, it's because they have already a really strong domain of knowledge. It might be in coding or it might be in astronomy. And it's because they're adults who've had plenty of experience and time to research. As smart as your 3 kids are, they're amazing. They don't begin to have the knowledge that I hope that they'll have when they're 20, 21, 22 and on. And so the other thing is, there's the book, The Unhurried Child, which we're carrying, and there's there's such a rush to adulthood. And You cannot recover the time as a child, ever. You just can't do it. And so even without AI, it's been a constant problem in classical conversations, parents who just, their children are great and they want to accelerate them, and trying to sit back and say, whoa, the wisdom of the church is slow down, meditate, memorize, go deep.
Mm-hmm.
And so AI is just going to help this even more hurried, impatient aspect that it's trained. I mean, I see it in myself. Before, when I was reading 5 hours of books a day, I could hold a thought a really long time, and I could hold many thoughts. But my eyes went bad about 7 years ago, and so I listened to more podcasts than I read books. And boy, has that ability diminished.
Yeah.
And so, so I'm working on, fortunately, these glasses are working really well, recovering more of my reading time. And I'm finding it hard to read a book because I got used to listening for 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm back to being a child again. And so it's really been good in the sense that I can now appreciate why it's hard for a younger student or an immature student to really dig in when effort is the algorithm. Right? And so we want to give our children lots of times to go slow and be effortful.
Yeah, that idea of effort as the algorithm. Of course, we'll get that YouTube video in the show links for those who didn't catch it. But Simon Sinek had a similar concept. He was on a podcast with the Diary of the CEO, and he just basically said, like, I wrote the book Why, and it changed me. Now it changed other people too, which is why it's a bestseller and that. But he's like, but it was the effort, it was the journey that you go on. It's not. We tell people life's not about the destination; life is the journey. Paraphrasing what he was saying. But then AI is only about a destination.
Mm-hmm.
And for us with a domain of knowledge that, we can use it to get to destinations faster so we can get to other destinations that maybe haven't been explored before in a quicker way. But for those who don't have any domain of knowledge, they don't have any, anything stored in their brain, then they're just going to be at the whims of whoever's programming it or whatever it's telling them. And of course, we've seen that with devastating results with, children, unfortunately committing suicide because they have a AI chatbot that has suggested that outcome for them. And we also don't know the worldview of it. I was talking to a guy who's, I guess these companies outsource their testing or their knowledge to third-party groups that they basically have a list of, here, test this algorithm. So he's testing the algorithm and he's trying to add in his own, add in the biblical worldview to some of the results. He said every once in a while they'll catch him, and so they'll restrict his access to that algorithm, and he has to go start on a new one.
Because something within it has said, "Don't be Christian." Is that what they're catching?
I guess he's trying to give a more biblical worldview response to what the question was, and so they're catching that and having him do something else. And not that it's a secular basis, so he's trying to bend the answers towards one direction, I guess.
Right. So something maybe philosophically to back up on as an analogy is it doesn't matter how great the local public school is here. It could be the cheapest, most effective, most loving place there ever was. And I still would not send my children to it because there's nothing biblical about the idea of collectivism. And so I'm not arguing that when AI is done hallucinating or when AI is to 100% accurate, well, we can all go use it. I'm saying the thing itself is flawed. It's not human. And if you're trying to build a domain of knowledge with the wisdom involved, you need a person to be there also. And that doesn't change when I get older and still that way. So you have such an amazing team, and one of us will read an AI article and then we text it to everybody and we fight over it. I need to have them pushing back and I need to push back on them. Well, if your children are used to a school system and they just want to get the A, they're not interested in fighting or pushing back. They just want to know what's the answer I'm supposed to give.
Right.
And so children are amazingly good at being appreciating an echo chamber. In fact, that's why we use the word catechesis, echo and celebration. We're designed to repeat back. And let's not be celebrating the worst of modern culture or the average aggregated information of the culture. Let's make sure that we're celebrating that we are equipped and able to apply God's word and to repeat it back. And that needs to be the first thing that our children are able to do. So AI could be as amazing as possible, but I would still say there has to be a person involved.
Yeah, because even if it gets to 100% accurate, and maybe they do that, well, then maybe they start using it to be a little less accurate because they want to move the world in a certain direction. And if we've seen that before in other technologies and in other cultures as well.
Sure.
So
A lot of this isn't new.
no,
It's just fast.
yeah, it's a lot faster. So what, as you think about like as kids, I mean, like they're gonna have access to some sort of AI, but like just if they have access to some technology, if you have Amazon screens in your home or something
Or Siri
like that,
or anything.
Siri, yep.
Yeah.
So they're gonna have access to it, but like from specifically narrowing it down to education, I mean, at what point, like, do you allow a child, or it's probably not child's, maybe a young adult probably is more like, to maybe start using it to either help them along or to help them think sharper? Is there a time? I mean, I don't like 16, but like, how do you think about that? Even maybe it's not even till college or post college.
Yeah. So the wonderful thing about our families in classical conversations and in homeschooling in general is we have a wide range of ages of children. So I can't look at a parent and say, don't do this with your 5-year-old when there's a 15-year-old in the house, right? And so this is why the Lord gave children to parents, so they can hopefully have the wisdom in each circumstance to think this through. And so you and John, we didn't have any TV in the house till John was 6 years old. And a lot of the best and most successful homeschoolers don't have TV at all or any screens when their children are those preschool, first grade years. But you start to have things to begin to happen. You want to watch your basketball games and review them. And so you need a screen for that. Well, we've gone way past that. So now that we have, Siri in the house, and you have all, your high school students are using ChatGPT to maybe double check their work. And so what I've been suggesting to parents is for the mom and dad to kind of figure out, okay, what is it that we want to be the outcome of all of this? And, it's just like with discipline and dinner and all kinds of things. You have boundaries. Good parents have boundaries. So the boundaries will get wider with your younger children as you have older children. You cannot help that. And so maybe one of the best boundaries is to make sure your younger ones read books and go to bed earlier. And then tell the older kids, now you can go use the AI, right? It's just like, when the parents have younger children, they may not, have a drink of wine till the kids are in bed. Like, we act as adults and we control situations that we know are harmful for our children. So every family is going to be different because the age range of your kids is going to be different. But the main thing we're saying, classical conversations, is the point of coming to community is to work in community and to hear well done by your peers, by your tutors, by your friends' by your parents' peers. And so please don't bring anything AI generated or any technology generated into the seminar. Come with your mind. But that doesn't mean at home you're not going to use it. But don't bring it into the classroom. And then on those older challenges where they may have some assignments where it's like, yeah, actually, we do want you to bring it in. Let's start learning what a good engineered prompt is. Let's start learning about, the effects of AI in our theses and our debates. Well, then I think the peers, the challenged students, should hold each other accountable. They should look at one another and say, you didn't do your best work. That machine did it, didn't it? Or, amazing. Tell me how you did it, because we want to learn from each other. So that's the problem with wisdom.
Yeah.
There's no rule.
Well, the Bible says to get it. We know that much.
Yeah.
And you can't get it if you bypass steps. And we know that as well. And so I think that idea of strengthening the domain, strengthening your brain. I mean, to your point, like sometimes I read, sometimes I listen to audiobooks. I definitely don't retain as much from audiobooks, but a lot of times if I like the audiobook, read the book so
You
that
go
I
buy
can, or buy it so I can
Mhm.
actually retain the information that I want to retain.
Right.
I noticed like with AI that I can use it too much, or if I use it for a long period of time, then my brain starts just like turning to mush almost like there. But yeah, it's very difficult because it is a powerful tool. But I think bottom line for kids is it's a blessing to give them 18 years to struggle under your household. 18 years, it's American standard.
Sure.
To help them figure things out and wrestle and grow those muscles. And so if we shortcut that, if we take that away from them, then we're doing them a disservice. And so, yeah, I think this, they're going to be able to do a lot of cool tricks with AI. Some of it may be more useful than others, even in education. We'll see what happens. But at the end of the day, like, are we becoming more Christ-like?
Yeah.
And to your point of work, because I've heard like Elon Musk say, there's not going to be any work for people. We need this high UBI idea. That's where I see like an attack on our Imago Dei. We're created in the image of God. The very first thing that we see God doing is working. And the very thing that the elites are telling us about AI is you're not going to have to work anymore.
Mm-hmm. Fortunately, there's a battle among the elites on whether that's true or not. So, for instance, the narrow AI and radiologists, that's been super successful. So what's happened now is there's more radiologists being hired than ever because of AI, because the price of the AI brought the test down so low that doctors are prescribing it to a lot of people that would not have done before. Mm-hmm. And so massive consumers are now able to get better data, which is requiring more training in radiology. So that tends to actually be the natural mode for disrupting technologies. AI is so different, we're not real confident that that's what's going to happen in all the fields this time. So there's a lot of unknowns that I'm trying to just pay attention, but not get fearful over. Because one of the things that's so great, can I go on to CC and AI?
Sure, yeah.
Is in classical conversations, and truly anybody who's truly educated, whether you use CC or not, they recognize that words matter. And as Christians, that's like the most important thing. And so what I just want people to understand is that during the era of word processors, it's different than the era of AI. And most people don't know what that difference is. So I like to relate it to humans because humans actually program those. So every person who's born learns to speak using behavior-based language. You can't help but speak like the people who are around you. What people who are educated or wanted their children to be more educated than they are would say, you know what, I don't want you to speak just like a fisherman. I don't want you to speak just like a farmer. I don't want you to speak just like a hedge fund. Your dad's in finances. I want you to know the language everybody speaks. And so that's called rule-based language, or for hundreds of years, we called it grammar school. In other words, you're a really smart kid. You can farm, you know the seasons, you're great at the family business, but I want you to know more.
Right.
And so you would go and learn grammar. Well, what's happened over the last 45, 50 years is grammar became no longer important. Why do I have to learn the rules of language when I'm just fine, right? I've heard even homeschool families say, who cares what an object complement noun is? I can write just as fine without knowing what that is. And we who study grammar say, no, you can't. Because by knowing that, you'll recognize an incorrectly spoken or written sentence. By knowing those parts of speech, you'll be able to go study any language you want. So what's the proof of that? Well, we had this thing called word processors for 20-some years, longer than that, but access to everybody. And what a word processor could do is very smart people learned how to program it using the rules of language. And so it could punctuate properly. It could, put a blue line under an adverb that should have gone after the word rather than before the word because it knew the rules. It knew the rules in every language because they're exactly the same. They only have nuances where they're different. And so word processors allowed us to have all kinds of corrections. But the word processor never looked at me and say, Leigh, are you sure you want to say y'all instead of yins? Are you sure you want to say good? Do you mean well? It started to get to there, right? We saw that kind of a difference with word processing as compute became more accessible. So what's the difference with AI? AI is finally able to use behavior-based rules on top of the rule-based. So, for example, if I say fish and, most people say chips. Why do they say chips? Because that in the English language is the most mathematically probable word to follow in that phrase. They might have said fish and loaves, or they might have said fish and flies, but fish and chips is first. All AI is doing is using mathematical equations to figure out most probably what word do you want. So then when you prompt it and say, no, I don't want fish and chips, I want you to answer me as a Christian, it goes through its database, Christian, so fast, and comes up with fish and loaves instead of fish and chips. But there's nothing conscious about it. There's nothing human about it. It is purely a math equation. And so people get, because it goes so fast and can do so much, it's being linked to being sentient or conscious. It is not, and it never will be. Just like we've confused the nature of children, and we don't know if boys are boys and girls are girls or dogs are our children. Yeah. We've confused the nature of AI. AI is run by copper and plastic and ones and zeros. Those things in their nature will never, ever have a conscience. The wonderful thing is, by being classically trained and learning the grammar, the rule-based language, and elevated behavior-based language, right? Our children learn debating skills, Socratic circles, mock trial, advanced mathematics. We help them practice the behaviors of scientists, of philosophers. Not just the language, not just the rules, but the behaviors of thinkers. It doesn't matter whether holograms are next or something from Mars I've never heard of. People who are classically educated and understand words and their rules and words and their behaviors will be fine.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty optimistic about AI because of that. But if you don't know that, boy, it is going to crush you.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because all these educational institutions are to come back to the blue book, which we never abandoned, and now they're saying, oh, we need oral presentations so that the students can't cheat because you can't talk about something that you haven't memorized and worked on. Mm-hmm. And these are things that we've been practicing all the time. And so classical conversations, families maybe don't know it, but they've been being prepared for the new AI world, whatever that means, for the last 29 years, almost 30 years now, by participating in classical conversations. And so there's nothing new under the sun. There is some scary things about it, from like a dystopian type, predicting who's going to create a crime and stuff like that type thing. But I think from the good thing is it needs a lot of computing power, and there's just not that much to do those things yet. Although, they're working on it.
Yeah. Well, we got data centers being built in the ocean that require zero energy, and they aren't radiating anything near any populations. All the technical problems will get solved. It's just how fast and how will they get solved, and will people be hurt in the process, and how can we minimize any cultural changes so that we can adapt to whatever's coming next. Because, just if you back up as a classicalist, I love history, and I'm mad at electricity because it made it so we no longer dance around the fire at night. I'm mad at cars because it made it so that children could move from their families and we don't have to go to the local church. I'm mad at all kinds of things that have technology with them because I see the loss. On the other hand, I'm not giving up my electricity. I'm not giving up my cars. I'm really glad for the technological advancements. But if you aren't grounded in Christ, if you don't have family support, if you aren't really trying to do those three things that matter most, educate yourself, stay committed to your family, and stay committed to a community, it is going to run you over. And that's my concern. It's not for your family or mine or most of the folks that are around us. It's for the folks that have bought into the secularism, the government dependency, and the education that's so superficial from the public school. And unfortunately, most Christian schools copy the public schools too. So pastors have a lot of work to do to educate us in this realm.
Well, all you have to do is look at the reading scores. I think 34% of kids can read at grade level that go to public school. And so the more and more technology we've introduced and the farther we've gotten away from a classical education and that robust work, the worse the outcomes have been. So
it's just great to see. There's so many reels on YouTube and on, not YouTube, who does reels? Facebook? I don't
they all
even
do
know.
reels now.
Yeah, they all do reels. See, I don't even know what I'm talking about. But there's so many of them now saying, just unplug, go outside, do things as a family. So there's this cultural kickback, and I'm just so proud of the men that are your age and younger, Robert. They are stepping up and trying to fight for the families in a way I didn't see between your dad's generation and yours. And so I just have only positive outlook on what's going on because I trust our Lord and Savior. We have an amazing community of believers in Classical Conversations who have sacrificed. I mean, we have, I don't know what the percentage is, but our leaders in general, when I say leaders, I mean, people have been helping other people put communities together. They've been studying this 17 to 25 years. We're prepared. There's an army out there that's ready to ask questions and to try things, and then also say, yeah, maybe we should pull back. Like, we need flexibility in our thinking through this era.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate being a thought partner with me as we jostle back and forth on this, trying to figure out this new world. And it's almost like God's been preparing us for this moment, and it does give me hope. All the families in Classical Conversations and in classical schools around the U.S. that are trying to fight back against this ideology. And parents, you gotta take a stand. You got to understand that you can either sacrifice your own time and energy, or you can sacrifice your kids. Those are really those kind of two options that we all have, and it's always a battle back and forth. But it's really a blessing when we can give our kids that opportunity to struggle, because it's going to empower them for the rest of their lives. So
yeah, I always tell people the best homeschool moms are the ones that say, "I'm having iced tea. Do it yourself." That's what we need to do.
Nice. All right. Well, if you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to share it with a friend. We're talking about AI all week, so be sure to watch those other episodes and comment below on your favorite part from today or a thought that you had based on our conversations. And until next time, God bless, and don't be woke, be wise.
Thank you for listening to Refining Rhetoric with Robert Bortins. Want more? Make sure to subscribe so you won't miss an episode. You can also follow us on social media to continue the conversation, and visit classicalconversations.com/rhetoric to find out how you can join a local homeschool community.